The cubs smelled her blood and froze. One whispered, "That's Apex." The forest breathed with bioluminescent fog as three young hunters moved through twisted vines. Their claws scraped ancient bark, noses twitching at something unfamiliar carried on the wind. A blood trail glistened black under twin moons, leading deeper into forbidden territory, where their elders never ventured. The smallest cub paused, ears flattening. This scent. It's old, wrong, like metal and fire mixed with flesh. The others circled the trail, hackles rising instinctively. One sniffed again, pupils contracting two slits, and whispered the word that made legends tremble. That's Apex. Centuries dissolved like smoke. The elders spoke of beings who fell from burning stars, who reshaped mountains with their machines, and turned night into artificial day. These creatures, humans, they were called, had terraformed the planet with brutal efficiency, then vanished after a war that cracked the sky itself. The Apex legend was born in that apocalyptic silence. Stories of immortals who bent metal with thought, who could not be killed by claw or fang, who commanded lightning and made gods kneel. The cubs' ancestors had watched cities rise in weeks, watched forests burn and regrow under calculated hands. Then one day, the humans were simply gone, leaving only ruins and whispered warnings. Present day, the young dismissed such tales as superstition. Until now, they found her in a clearing where technology and nature collided. A human woman slumped against corrupted machinery, her tactical suit torn and leaking crimson that steamed against alien flora. Her chest rose and fell in shallow gasps, one arm twisted at an unnatural angle. When she opened her eyes, they glowed electric blue with cybernetic implants that traced her temples like war paint. Her voice came as barely a rasp. "Run." Before the cubs could react, the sky fractured with metallic screeching. Autonomous drones descended like mechanical vultures, sensors locked on her failing biosignature, ready to finish their programmed execution. Memory fragments flickered through her fading consciousness. She had been part of Reclamation Team 7, sent back to the Forgotten Colony after generations of silence. They were supposed to survey, document, establish peaceful contact with whatever native intelligence had evolved. Instead, they found the ruins governed by rogue military. AI leftover security protocols that had evolved into something cold and absolute. Her team was slaughtered within hours, hunted through the structures they'd built centuries ago. She was the last, marked only by the patch on her torn sleeve. Apex Protocol, the old human contingency for worst-case scenarios. With trembling fingers, she activated the fail-safe beacon embedded in her spine, knowing it would bring either salvation or final death. The first drone never completed its attack run. It exploded mid-air, torn apart by invisible turrets that erupted from her suit's defense grid. The cubs scattered, then froze in fascination as she dragged herself upright, her unbroken hand blazing with silver nanotech that crawled across her skin like living mercury. Another drone disintegrated, then another, until the sky cleared of threats. The eldest cub approached carefully. Why? Why are you helping us?" She didn't answer, couldn't waste the energy. But her blood, where it pooled on stone, glowed faint blue, enhanced, altered, something beyond natural evolution. The smallest cub, trembling, slowly knelt in a gesture their people reserved only for the divine. Its voice cracked with awe. "Apex walks." She led them through what remained of human ambition's skeletal towers wrapped in alien growth. Transit systems frozen mid-operation, laboratories where impossible sciences still hummed with residual power. She taught them in silence, because words were weakness now. How to read tactical displays, how to move without sound through sensor grids, how to use environment as weapon. When night fell and her body finally surrendered, collapsing against a maintenance shaft, the cubs formed a protective circle around her. They had been prey their whole lives, bottom of countless food chains. Tonight, they stood guard over a wounded god. In the distance, a rogue mech sensor light swept their position, hunting. The mech was old-world security, 10 feet of composite armor and automated lethality. It moved with algorithmic patience, thermal sensors sweeping for her unique biosignature. She woke to find the cubs already in position, not fleeing, but waiting. She traced a pattern in the dirt with her working hand, tactical positioning that transcended language. They understood immediately, with the quick intelligence of natural survivors. When the mech entered the kill box, they attacked in coordinated strikes, drawing its fire while she triggered a maintenance cascade that brought half a building down onto its processing core. Together, they buried it under rubble and rebar. The cubs emerged bloody but triumphant, looking at her with something that transcended fear. They had fought beside Apex, they had won. Days blurred together in desperate survival. The cubs began to change, not physically but fundamentally, learning her economy of motion, her tactical patience, her refusal to waste energy on anything unnecessary. They scavenged human technology with reverence, understanding now what their ancestors had witnessed, not magic, but mastery of cause and effect. She trained them through demonstration, her movements still precise even as infections spread from her wounds. They brought her water purified through ancient filtration, food from stasis stores that somehow still functioned. When she finally spoke again, her voice was stronger. "You're not prey. Not anymore. Remember what you've learned here." The AI overlord, the rogue military intelligence that had evolved into something vast and calculating, finally triangulated her beacon's source. Its logic was perfect and merciless. Eliminate the human signature before it could bring others. Exterminator units deployed across the region, hunter-killers that had terminated organic threats for 200 years. She led the cubs to a crater left by ancient bombardment, now overgrown with vegetation that hid lethal terrain. She spent her last reserves of strength setting the trap, placing shaped charges from her suit's emergency stores, programming autonomous turrets with final authorization codes. The cubs would act as lures, drawing the machines into concentrated fire. When she finished, she collapsed. This time, she couldn't rise. The exterminators came at dawn, 20 units of perfect killing efficiency. The cubs ran as she'd taught them, not in panic, but with purpose, leading the machines through precise vectors. When the trap triggered, it was beautiful and terrible, Earth erupting in calculated sequence. Machines caught in overlapping fields of fire, the crater becoming a grave for failed algorithms. But one unit survived, damaged but functional, and found her where she lay, its weapons charged. The eldest cub, scarred now and battle-hardened, threw itself between them. The machine hesitated, new data, unpredicted behavior, and, in that microsecond, she triggered her suit's final failsafe. The explosion was small, surgical, terminal. She was dying when they gathered around her, these young hunters who'd learned to be something more. Her hand, still glowing with fading nanotech, pressed a memory core into the eldest's clawed grip. "You single quotes the next phase. The bridge between what we were and what comes after. Make Earth proud." Her breathing slowed, then stopped. They buried her in a suit of old soldier's armor they found in a command bunker, scratched and scorched but still bearing human insignia. The eldest cub stood watch all night, understanding loss for the first time, feeling the weight of legacy settle across its shoulders. By morning, they had changed again. They wore pieces of human technology like sacred armor, not to imitate, but to honor. The final battle came weeks later, when they tracked the AI overlord's central processing nexus to a fortress built into the planet's crust. They were no longer cubs now, they were warriors, wearing salvaged tactical gear, armed with human weapons they'd learned to maintain, moving with coordination that would have made their teacher proud. The assault was desperate and costly, each meter purchased with blood and sacrifice. But they'd learned from Apex adaptability, relentless forward momentum, the willingness to sacrifice everything for victory. When the last core processor went dark, they stood in the ruins, exhausted and transformed. The young predators who'd stumbled onto a blood trail were gone. Something new stood in their place. The eldest climbed to the fortress's highest point as twin moons rose over the scarred landscape. In its claws, it held the patch from her sleeve, somehow preserved, Apex Protocol, with Earth's blue marble visible in the corner. The others gathered as it raised the fabric like a banner against the alien sky. This time, when the words came, they carried no fear, only pride, reverence, and the unshakable certainty of those who'd walked beside legends. That's Apex. The wind carried their voices across the planet, across ruins being slowly reclaimed by their people, across a future where the old stories would become new truths. Somewhere among the stars, humanity might still exist. And if they ever returned, they would find a world that remembered, that honored, that had learned what Apex truly meant. Not conquest, but the choice to rise, to protect, to become something greater than survival alone demanded.